Hello Year 3 and welcome back to my virtual classroom and another week of guided reading. This week we are moving on to a new story. We are very excited to say that we are going to be reading The Big Friendly Giant, or more commonly known as The BFG by Roald Dahl, a tale I'm sure many of you have read before, but if you haven't, you are in for a treat. So the way this lesson is going to go is I am going to go through your vocabulary with you. Once we have done that, I will read the text, and then after we have gone through the text together, I will then show you your vocabulary task. Now, you won't need any worksheet. There is nothing to print out. You just need a pen or a pencil and a piece of paper, and I will show you how to go through the answers, and then I will show you the answers at the end. So first things first, let's go through our vocabulary. So, like I said, we are looking at the BFG, which is the tale of a young girl who meets a big friendly giant and all of the adventures that they get into. So I'm not going to spoil any more of the plot for those who have not yet read it, but it's a great tale, so definitely give it a go if you haven't already. So my first word is, I'm going to say it and I'm going to give you a pause, so about 3 seconds to say it after me. So, slanting. And that can either be a verb, I slant, you slant, or an adjective, meaning it's a describing word. So if something is slanting, just like in this picture here, it is sloping in one direction, which means it's at an angle and it's following that angle in that direction. So a sloping roof, or a hill you could describe as being sloping. The next word is slicing. And to slice is a verb, so to slice a piece of toast. Now the root word is slice, and if you were to say I was slicing, you would add the ing, but obviously you would drop the e. And that means to cut something into thin, flat pieces. So when I heard the word slice, the first thing that came to my mind was slices of bread. My next word is misty. Good, make sure you're pronouncing those words nice and loud. And misty is another adjective, so it's a way of describing something that is very unclear, and usually or often because of fog, which you can see in my picture there. So you could describe the weather as being very misty. Sometimes you can even describe somebody as being very misty-eyed, meaning they're finding it hard to see, possibly because of tears. My next word is spurts. And that's a verb, to spurt. It means to move off with sudden speed. So when I heard the word spurt, what I thought of was the water coming out of a whale's blowhole, because it is very quick and very sudden. It just spurts out like a fountain. So again, 1, 2, 3, the word is fantastic. Okay, and my next word is crooked. Crooked. And that's an adjective, so again, a describing word, and it's something that has been bent or twisted out of shape. So it's all at different angles, not very straight at all. So you might describe the branches on a tree as being crooked. You might draw a line and not be very happy with it because it's not straight and therefore it is crooked. So again, the word is 1, 2, 3. Fantastic. And lastly, my next word is hesitate. Hesitate. And that's a verb because it's something that you can do, and it means to pause, to shortly stop before an action because you're unsure. So in this picture here, I have a little fella and he's hesitating before he moves left or right because he's not sure which direction he should go in. So again, my word is, and there are lots of things that you might hesitate before. You might hesitate before you cross the road to make sure there isn't any traffic. You might hesitate before leaving the house to make sure that you have everything that you need. So lots of situations where you would have that short pause. So it'd be great if you could think of your own ideas. Okay, so now that we've gone through those words, I'm now going to read the text with you. The text is uploaded on your home learning document, so you can have that printed if you want, but you can just listen to me and watch it on the screen as well. So, chapter 1. Sophie couldn't sleep. A brilliant moonbeam was slanting through a gap in the curtains. It was shining right onto her pillow. I'm going to read that sentence again and see whether anyone can shout out or say out loud the vocabulary word that we have. Sophie couldn't sleep. A brilliant moonbeam was through a gap in the curtains. It was shining right onto her pillow. The other children in the dormitory had been asleep for hours. A dormitory is like a long room that has rows and rows of beds, and it's where everybody would sleep. So if you're on a camp, for instance, a summer camp, you may have dormitories where everybody is sleeping in the same room. Sophie closed her eyes and lay quite still. She tried very hard to doze off, doze meaning a long sleep. It was no good. The moonbeam was like a silver blade slicing through the room onto her face. The house was absolutely silent. No voices came up from downstairs. There were no footsteps on the floor above either. The window behind the curtain was wide open, but nobody was walking on the pavement outside. No cars went by on the street. Not the tiniest sound could be heard anywhere. Sophie had never known such a silence. Perhaps, she told herself, this was what they called the witching hour. The witching hour, somebody had once whispered to her, was a special moment in the middle of the night when every child and every grown-up was in a deep, deep sleep, and all the dark things came out from hiding and had the world to themselves. The moonbeam was brighter than ever on Sophie's pillow. She decided to get out of bed and close the gap in the curtains. You got punished if you were caught out of bed after lights out. Even if you said you had to go to the lavatory, lavatories never were for the toilet, that was not accepted as an excuse, and they punished you just the same. But there was no one about now. Sophie was sure of that. She reached out for her glasses that lay on the chair beside her bed. They had steel rims, so rims are like the frames of your glasses, and very thick lenses, and she could hardly see a thing without them. She put them on, then she slipped out of bed and tiptoed over to the window. When she reached the curtains, Sophie hesitated, so she's paused and stopped here. She really wanted to, she longed to duck underneath them and lean out of the window to see what the world looked like now that the witching hour was at hand. She listened again. Everywhere it was deathly still. The longing to look out became so strong she couldn't resist it. So we've had resist before. Resist means you just can't help yourself. Quickly, she ducked under the curtains and leaned out of the window. In the silvery moonlight, the village street she knew so well seemed completely different. The houses looked bent and crooked, like houses in a fairy tale. Everything was pale and ghostly and milky white. Across the road, she could see Mrs. Rance's shop, where you bought buttons and wool and bits of elastic. It didn't look real. There was something dim and misty about that too, so everything's quite hard to see in this light. Sophie allowed her eye to travel further and further down the street. Suddenly, she froze. There was something coming up the street on the opposite side. It was something black, something tall and black, something very tall and very black and very thin. Okay, so that is our text. Now, your vocabulary task is, I have got our 6 words there. So I'm going to point to them with my cursor, which you can see floating about here. And I want you in your big, loud voices to pronounce the words again. And to make it helpful, I've also added some pictures there as well. So our first word is slanting. Remember, that means to be sloping at an angle. The next word is slicing. Good. Remember, slicing with a knife, slicing something into thin, narrow pieces. The next word is good. Spurt, like a fountain. Next word is good. Crooked, like something's not straight, it's all bent out of shape. The next word is good. Hesitated. You're stopping and pausing before you do something. And last but not least, we have misty. Good, well done. Now you can see here, this should look quite familiar to you, but you have your 6 definitions. Definitions are the meanings of words. So what I would like you to do is you do not have to write out the definition again, but you can just write in a list and you can number them if it's helpful for you with 1, 2, and so on, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and write the correct word next to the meaning. So again, you do not have to read the definition. I can read the definition out with you now, and you can write the words down in a list, a bit like your spellings, and then we can go through the answers afterwards. However, if you would like to do it on your own, press pause and then press play when you are ready to see the answers. So I'm going to read them out now. So number 1, which word means bent or twisted out of shape or place? Number 2, which word means to cut into thin, flat pieces? Number 3, which word means to be unclear because of fog or something similar? And the 4th word, which one means sloping in one direction? So again, if you're not sure, have a look at the vocabulary above on the screen and look at the pictures to help you. And the next word, what word means to move with a sudden speed? If you're writing these out, make sure that your vocabulary is spelt correctly. And last but not least, which word means to pause indecisively, so not being quite sure before doing or saying something? So you should have a list of 6 words now. Again, didn't have to write the definition next to them, but take some time to write your answers and press pause if you need to go through them, if you want to rewind the video and go through them again, but I am going to go through the answers now. So here are your answers. So the word that had the meaning, bent or twisted out of shape or place was crooked. To cut into thin, flat pieces was slicing. To be unclear because of fog was misty. Sloping in one direction was slanting. To move with a sudden speed was spurts. And to pause indecisively before doing or saying something is hesitated. So again, you can pause the video here because the answers are on the screen for you, so you can check back and make any edits if you need to. Big well done for learning your 6 words. Make sure that you keep recapping them in your head as the day goes on, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow for your next lesson.